Hello, buddies. I'm Lewis.
I'm Sarah.
Today we bring the famous theory, Flat Earth, and discuss its evidence and doubts. It's an open discussion that is welcome all you to come to talk about it. The Flat Earth Society's recently released world model is shaped like a disc with the Arctic Circle in the center and a 150-foot, 45-meter, high ice wall on the outside. The Flat Earth Society's map is similar in shape to the world map on the United Nations flag. In the Flat Earth Society's world model, the sun and moon are just spheres with a diameter of 32 miles, 52 kilometers.
This is very different from current theories.
Yes, let's talk about the history and evolution of the Flat Earth theory, from Flat Earth to Earth globe and back to Flat Earth. In our modern culture, the term Flat Earth theory often means backward thinking, self-deception, and rejection of reality, but this does not prevent some people from continuing to believe in it. In the Bible, there are many scriptures that prove that the sky is round and the earth is flat, that the earth is a flat body and does not shake, that the sky covers the earth, that all celestial bodies are within this sky cover, and that there is a flood outside the sky cover. Among them, the most famous Noah's flood clearly mentions that the window of the sky cover was opened and water fell from the sky to form a flood. Job 38, verse 6. Into what were its pedestals sunk, and who laid its cornerstone. At here, the cornerstones of the earth are like a picnic blanket spread out on the ground with 4 stones holding down the corners. The earth is flat like the picnic blanket. Isaiah 11, verse 12. He shall raise a signal to the nations, and gather the outcasts of Israel. The dispersed of Judah he shall assemble, from the 4 corners of the earth.
The description here is the same, the cornerstone of the earth.
Revelation 7, verse 1. After this I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding back the 4 winds of the earth, so that no wind could blow on land or sea or against any tree. Matthew 4, verse 8. Then the devil took him up to a very high mountain, and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in their magnificence. Well, to be able to see all the countries from a high mountain, it must be a super high mountain.
But now we have the concept of air visibility, but could people in ancient times see that far?
I think there were no factories in ancient times, so there wasn't so much air pollution. In addition, existing historical materials confirm that from classical Greece, 5th to 4th century BC, to the Near East, to the Gupta dynasty in India, 4th to 6th century AD, and the nearby indigenous peoples, to China before the 17th century, many ancient nations had basically the same understanding of heaven and earth. The sky is like a large bowl, upside down on the flat ground.
In ancient times, the whole world believed that the earth was flat. There is also a history of intellectual exchange between the West and the East. The idea of the sky is round and the earth is flat and square dominated the ancient Chinese world for a long time. In the 17th century, as a large number of Jesuit missionaries came to China to spread astronomical ideas, the flat earth theory gradually faded away in China.
However, there were different opinions in ancient times, and the sages had their own opinions. Let's take a look. Pythagoras first proposed the earth theory. Existing data show that the mathematician and philosopher Pythagoras, 572 BC for 97 BC, was the founder of the earth theory. He refused to recognize the flat earth theory of the Milesian school. 2 centuries later, his ideas were carried forward by the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle. But the flat earth theory did not leave the stage. Let's talk about modern times. The debate between Earth and flat Earth continues until the 20th century. The Soviet Union launched the first artificial satellite into space and took photos showing that the Earth is a sphere. Despite this, the Flat Earth Society still insists that the flat Earth theory is correct. Shenton even pointed out that such photos can easily deceive an untrained eye.
What's untrained eye?
It's by his definition.
The Earth theory was once defeated by the flat Earth theory.
Yes, in the 19th century, a large number of people emerged among the believers of the flat Earth theory. Some of them wrote books, and some held the Bible to promote it. Their activities made the flat Earth theory, which had been declining, see the light of day again. Here are a few people for readers to learn about. In the early 19th century, British inventor and writer Samuel Burley Rowbottom was an advocate of the flat Earth theory during this period. Labsheim himself founded a discipline called Zetetic astronomy, which simulated the Earth into a closed plane centered on the North Pole. Zetetic is a Greek word meaning search. In 1849, he wrote a pamphlet, Astronomical Investigations, under a pseudonym to promote the flat Earth theory. Initially, his work was only a 16-page pamphlet, which was later expanded into a book. His flat Earth theory was mainly based on the interpretation of the Bible. Rowbottom also created a Zetetic society in Britain and New York, and issued more than 1,000 copies of the 16-page pamphlet. Maybe you are confused on the debates. Next, let's talk about some evidence for the flat Earth theory. 1. Superior mirage. By modern story, the Earth curves approximately 8 inches, 20 centimeters, per mile. This means that if you were to draw a straight line on the surface of the Earth for 1 mile, the ends of that line would be about 8 inches, 20 centimeters. At ground and sea level, the curvature of the Earth limits the range of vision to 2.9 miles for 0.7 kilometers. When we take photos, we can always take pictures of mountains and houses in the distance. These scenes are often more than 10 kilometers away, and when the weather's good, we can take pictures of dozens of kilometers away. At such a long distance, we can still see objects on the ground. Scientists say that this is because the air density in the distance is different, forming an air lens. The distant scenery displayed by the air lens is the same as the mirage.
But are mirages a common phenomenon?
Obviously not.
So how come it is common to see distant scenery? Will the air lens appear every time you observe the distance? So, does this curvature really exist? If the atmosphere is so easy to refract, will it form a convex lens to focus light and burn us to death? Wait. The density in the atmosphere is inconsistent. This should be the lens effect.
Scientists are talking about atmospheric light refraction.
Light refraction, like this?
It shouldn't be this.
So, like this?
They say it's atmospheric refraction.
Does air refract like this? There are things like diamonds in the atmosphere. Give me atmospheric diamonds.
Let's continue on flat Earth. 2. Earth curvature. We also cannot see the curvature of the Earth from an airplane. When we are on an airplane, we can usually see 357 kilometers away from an altitude of 10,000 meters. When we are flying at 10,000 meters, 10 kilometers, you'd see 357 kilometers far.
Oh, I don't think I've seen it either.
If you think the Earth is very big and 357 kilometers is not far enough, please consider the diameter of the Earth. 12,742 kilometers, so you can see 3% of the Earth's diameter, 360 by 3%, with a curvature of 10.8 degrees. So you can definitely see some curvature on the plane if the Earth is really a sphere. When an airplane flies a certain distance, it must lower its nose, right?
Why didn't the airplane fly toward the horizon?
Then the photos of the Earth taken by humans in the space station have an arc.
Was it taken with a fisheye lens? Look at the night view of Tokyo. The distant horizon is curved, while the nearby scenery is very natural. This is because it was shot with a fisheye lens.
Let's see that the height of a general space station is 300 kilometers, so it can see more than 10,000 kilometers away. 357 kilometers can see 10.8 degrees. How about more than 10,000 kilometers? Can we see 300 degrees?
I have never seen a photo of the Earth with a 300-degree angle. What you see at 1 meter away from the wall is not twice as different from what you see at 2 meters away from the wall, so you can't calculate it this way.
Well, both sides do have evidence. 3. Moonlight in the clouds. Why is it that only part of the clouds are illuminated by the moonlight? The same is true for the sun, which only illuminates a small part of the clouds. With such a huge sun, the entire side of the Earth facing the sun should be illuminated with the same brightness, instead of the current observation that only some clouds are particularly bright behind. This situation is like the effect of a flashlight shining on paper. Doesn't this look like a flashlight in the sky rather than a distant superlarge star?
You see, this is what my flashlight looks like.
4. The sun and moon change size as they rise and set. How do you explain the daily changes in the size of the sun and moon as they rise and set? The change in distance between the sun and the moon due to the change in angle within a day is too small compared to the distance between the sun and the moon and the Earth, as currently known by science. It is not enough to cause changes in the size of the sun and the moon when they rise and set.
Is it the atmosphere that is refracting to form a lens or magnifier?
It really doesn't make sense. 5. Tidal. The average distance between the moon and the Earth is 384,403 kilometers, and the gravity of the moon's center is only 1/6 of that of the Earth. However, it can cause tidal waves twice a day on the Earth, which is 6 times its diameter. Why is this? Through calculation, it is not difficult to find that the gravity of the sun, which is 150 million kilometers away, which gravity is greater. It is the sun that makes the moon and the Earth move in their respective positions, but why is it the moon that changes the shape of the Earth's ocean surface?
So sun's strong gravity is not as effective as moon's weak gravity?
It seems so. The weird thing is the distances from the sun and the moon to the Earth are 500 times different.
So, is the volume of the sun 500 times that of the moon?
No, the volume of the sun is 76 million times that of the moon.
You see, the strong gravity is still not as great as the weak gravity.
So this is evidence for a flat Earth, right?
Agree.
6. Temperature changes in seasons. Let's talk about temperature, which is closely related to our lives. The change in the angle of the sun's rays at the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer is too small compared to the distance from the sun to the Earth, whether in winter or summer. It is impossible to cause a temperature difference of more than 20 degrees Celsius between summer and winter. There is explanation. The density of sunlight hitting the ground is different, right? The density of sunlight is different at different angles. Does sunlight have density?
Of course. The maximum energy density of vertically incident sunlight is about 1325 W, 1457 W.
There is still in debating. The heliocentric theory holds that sunlight hits the Earth from 150 million kilometers away, and the reason for the change of seasons on the Earth is the result of the interaction between the Earth's axial tilt and the elliptical orbit of its revolution. In January, winter in the northern hemisphere, the Earth is closest to the sun, and in July, summer in the northern hemisphere, it is farthest from the sun. It is precisely because of the existence of the Earth's inclination that different places receive different amounts of direct light. This forms seasonal temperature changes. Here, the key question is, if the heat emitted by the sun really travels 150 million kilometers to the Earth, how can a small inclination angle and a few thousand kilometers of additional distance at the North and South Poles offset the sun's journey of more than 150 million kilometers and allow the distinction between tropical summer and Antarctic cold to appear on the Earth's surface at the same time?
When sunlight shines on the Earth obliquely, the energy density gradually decreases as the angle changes. Even a 1% decrease each day will result in progressively cooler weather as the days get shorter and time passes.
How do you know this?
I just know it, indeed.
7. The North Pole is not as cold as the South Pole. According to current theories, the Antarctic and the Arctic are the continents closest to the Sun, the perihelion of the Earth's orbit around the Sun, for a full 6 months each year, September 21st to March 21st of the following year at the South Pole. Why is the Arctic far less cold than the Antarctic?
The southern hemisphere has more oceans, the seawater has a higher specific heat, and the temperature is more stable, so it should be warmer. There is still in debating.
Yes, Antarctica is the coldest region in the world, with an average annual temperature of about minus 49.4 degrees Celsius and a record low temperature of minus 93.2 degrees Celsius. However, the Arctic is relatively warm, with an average annual temperature of minus 15.5 degrees Celsius. The temperature variation in the Antarctic region throughout the year is less than half of that in the Arctic Circle. In the northern part of the Arctic region, the summer climate is mild and the low temperature in the winter is relatively controllable. In contrast, the southern part of Antarctica has never received enough warmth to melt the permanently accumulated ice and snow. The Arctic Circle has 4 distinct seasons. In the warm summer, you can see a wide variety of animals and plants. In Antarctica, there are only a few animals such as penguins, sea lions, seals, and dolphins. In terms of plants, except for lichens and moss-like plants, other plants cannot grow at all. The Eskimos live at 79 degrees north latitude. In the southern hemisphere, you cannot find a primitive tribe living in an area with a latitude higher than 56 degrees.
Are there fewer factories in the southern hemisphere?
It seems so. 8. Mercury and Venus. Why can Venus and Mercury be seen at 11 p.m.? Mercury and Venus are between the Earth and the Sun. If this is true, how can Mercury and Venus be seen at night on the side of the Earth that is facing away from the Sun?
Indeed, how can you see someone with your back to him?
Scientists mean that you only need to turn your back a little bit and look at him with your eyes slanted. At 11 o'clock at night, you should turn your back a little bit.
Then why can't you see him at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock?
Well, what you said makes sense. 9. No planetary phases. Why do the planets in the solar system have no planetary phases, but only the moon has lunar phases? No NASA pictures. We need the planetary phases observed truthfully. The lunar phases are the changes of the moon from waxing to waning, while other planets, such as Saturn and Jupiter, have their own satellites like the Earth. But when observing with an astronomical telescope, these planets cannot be seen to change like the moon.
I can answer this question because their satellites do not rotate? Or their satellites are too small and can only cover a little bit?
It should be visible even if it covers a little bit. 10. Southern Hemisphere flight routine. There is a story that on the map, the routes of flights between cities in the Southern Hemisphere are all closer in plane distance. For example, the route from Buenos Aires, Argentina to Melbourne, Australia. The flight is from Argentina to Miami and Los Angeles in the United States, and then to Australia. This story seems to make sense, but you are misled. In fact, there are flights between cities in the Southern Hemisphere without having to go through the Northern Hemisphere. For example, the flight from Buenos Aires, Argentina to Chile and then to Melbourne is flying all the way in the Southern Hemisphere.
There is cargo shipping in the South Pacific too.
So the story that flights in the Southern Hemisphere will definitely fly to the Northern Hemisphere is false.
By the way, let's talk about the Antarctic ice wall. Why is it so easy to reach such a crucial wall without any difficulties or obstacles? Or is the severe cold an obstacle? And penguins are the monsters guarding the ice wall?
To summarize the belief of Flat Earth supporters, the core of their thought, the International Flat Earth Association is a weapon for mankind to resist ideological oppression, and also a weapon to break the lies of the new era's Earth theory.
Yes, this is scientific democracy. Stay curious. Thank you for watching.